Hi, everyone. Marissa B here. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. Today, I have with me five-time world champion martial artist, Reiki Master, Chakra Specialist, owner of LightClub Curiosity Shoppes in Sugarloaf in Warwick, New York, known as the Chakra Witch. Melissa Paone-Somma, I hope I'm saying your name right, is an eclectic witch who's been studying for over 30 years the craft. She specializes in empowerment, wellness, and self-mastery. Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for coming today.
Hello, it's good. Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here. I really look forward to seeing your show every week, and it means a lot to be asked to be on it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming. The first question I'd like to ask you, because I'm sure that a lot of people in the audience want to know, and people have actually asked me when I said who was coming on, they want to know the five-time world champion martial artist. What was the type of martial arts that you specialized in?
Kung Sudo, okay, which it's a little bit less of a well-known art. I would say if you took Taekwondo and Kung Fu and went like that, you would have Kung Sudo. So it's more of, I would say, a very showy type of expression and everything. I started when I was 11 years old. And this was back in 1983. So it wasn't really the type of thing where you had, first of all, there weren't as many women and there weren't as many children. This was pre-Karate Kid, pre-Power Rangers, pre-Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was still mostly men. And the only children who trained were children of, say, already other black belts who were training in school. So it was just an unusual thing. My mother decided it would be something that would be good for my self-confidence. And that was the reason she put me into it. So, I would say that that was really my introduction to meditation. That was my introduction to the metaphysical in general, because you had to learn how to focus. You had to learn how to concentrate. And there was always meditation at the beginning of class and at the end of every single class. And I went 5 days a week. So I grew up.
Wow.
How to meditate and focus.
Oh, and wow. 5 days a week. Yeah.
Yeah. 5 days a week. Yeah. It was just the type of thing where, I mean, at that time, it was really, you were either going to go only once a week and, pardon my French, but you're going to get your butt kicked, or you're going to go 5 days a week and survive.
So, right. Exactly. Because practice.
At that time, that's the way it
practice. Was. Yes.
Yeah, it was much more contact. It was not the way it is today. Today, it's more considered like a sport.
Right.
But at the time, it was, I mean, this was the real deal. And if you were not doing it correctly, you were going to find out. There was no liability, anything like that.
Because I find it fascinating. World champion, 5 times, and it's a woman, especially starting at that time, and in a type of martial arts that was lesser known, especially. That's incredible. But I can see how the meditation and the practice brought you into what you're currently doing, because, you're known as the Chakra Witch, and I know that you're an eclectic witch. And I know, as I said, you studied over 30 years, but blending the chakras and a nature practice. Can you explain a little bit about that? How did that meld together? Because that's so important to hear.
Yeah, that's actually the funny thing is that that's why it was so important with the martial arts, because first you have to learn how to ground. And then you start to learn how to listen to the gut and everything. So you could see it's already building up from the root, and now it's going into the sacral and so on and so forth. So I actually, my instructors were the ones who kind of introduced me more to New Age thought through the meditation and everything. They were the ones who actually introduced me to chakras. Our warm-up, our martial arts warm-up was basically a sun salutation. That was how
lovely.
Yeah, it was all yoga. We had no idea showing us, but then, my instructor admitted, he said that, to make ends meet before he had the martial arts school, he was a yoga instructor. He still warmed us up with all of that. So that's why the meditation was such a big part of it. And then eventually they were just saying, okay, focus through your third eye, make sure that you're grounding through your root and everything. And, and I would hear all of this all of the time. So after a while, I didn't realize that was a whole different discipline. So one day I'm in a bookstore and I'm looking at, this is a little bit about what we do. And I realized the book wasn't anything about martial arts at all.
Wow.
So then I just started focusing on chakras,
Mhm.
but there was always this other side that was just kind of pulling me in with learning how to focus and how to kind of apply my energy in a
Mhm.
certain way. And the main thing was I would just always find it after I had already been doing it. And
Mhm.
then it would explain what I was doing. So it was just something that I would do naturally.
Mhm.
Like I would just try to, just apply some more nature-based practice, going out and meditating in nature, and then
Mhm.
adding a whole little ritual or ceremony to it. And then later I'd look up and they were like, oh yeah, you cast a circle.
And isn't it amazing? Now we see people doing
Yeah,
yoga by rivers and streams and
exactly.
right outside. And
Exactly.
so,
Yeah, and it was just something that I did naturally. And then I
yes.
always found out later on, because at the time, it really was not out there. And that's actually what drew me eventually to start teaching. And I first started teaching out of my home. And then
Mhm.
eventually it just kind of grew and it became a shop. And that was pretty much the whole process there. But it was a very organic, very natural. It wasn't the type of thing where I said, I'm going to learn this. It was just like I was
Mhm.
already doing it. And then I had to figure out what it was that I was doing, because other people were asking me what I was doing.
Mhm.
How is it successful? How is that? How did you get this? Because, even the world titles, that
Mhm.
was not the type of thing where I was basically the last person they thought who was ever going to win something.
Right.
It
Right.
just, I was the smallest, I was the youngest, it
Mhm.
was just, I was not a sure thing by any stretch of the imagination. I was the last person in the world they expect. So after a while, people were trying to figure out, well, I see she's doing these other things
Mhm.
as well, then maybe that has something to do with it.
Right. It has to be the discipline too, because the yoga
Yeah.
poses, especially if they
Oh
were
yeah.
introducing that as you
Mhm.
practice, that really is a form
Absolutely.
of meditation and a form of
Mhm.
mind strength to hold the
Yes.
poses to,
Yes.
so you were really being geared towards moving.
Absolutely.
Well, it's all energy, right? Energy and light
Yeah.
really is what it's all about.
Yep. And then after a while, if you were focused enough, you could feel the
Mhm.
I wouldn't even say that, for lack of a better word, you would feel the attack before it came. You would
Mhm.
know what they were going to do.
Mhm.
And there were times where they would even blindfold us, and they would have somebody reach, like they were reaching towards your head, and you were supposed to feel it coming, so your block would be there before it
Mhm.
came out, so you could actually feel it coming
Mhm.
if you were open enough. And that's when I realized
Right.
that, okay, that's using the third eye. That's using,
Mhm.
maybe the not just the say the sacral, but also the heart, opening the
Mhm.
heart, noticing that you're feeling all of these things coming from all directions. So there was just all these different ways of tying it in. And it started out more in a movement based thing, but then it started to get more into the philosophy, because as you get higher in rank,
Mhm.
they actually go more in that direction. And not only can you do it for yourself, how well do you connect to somebody else? How well do you balance out the energy of a room? How do you feel things that are going on?
Mhm.
So then just learn how to expand it beyond yourself. So it starts here, and then it goes, just like
Mhm.
your aura. You're
Yes.
basically doing.
But how
And
wonderful. Think about how wonderful
yeah.
that you're blindfolded and you have to actually sense the energy of
Oh
another
yeah.
coming into your space, into your energy, into your ethereal
Yeah.
space. That's a
Right. And
wonderful
then
training.
absolutely. Then after a while, maybe you're at a party, and so the energy of the room shifts, and you're wondering why. And then you start to
Mhm.
figure it out. So there were all these questions I had, and I'm figuring them out by trial and error. And then like 5 years later, I'd find it in a book. It was almost like years after I'd been doing it for a while, but it was good validation. And but it was the type of thing where it was just what was natural. And I think that's why I'm so grateful, because that's not necessarily everybody's journey. Some people have, a really hard time finding this,
Mhm.
or their family isn't open to it. And it can be a much more difficult journey. And I've been
Mhm.
very blessed in that way, that it was just a part of my upbringing. Since I was 11 years old, this was just
Mhm.
a way of life for me. So that's why I just feel like, even though I had to kind of figure out what it was that I was doing after the fact,
Mhm.
I still had an advantage in being able to have it at such a young age. I mean, like just the yoga warm ups themselves most other martial artists weren't getting that sort of thing. And most people who have been doing martial arts for, say, 40 years have lots of injuries. I don't have any.
Right.
I really don't have any. And it's not like I haven't been out there doing it because, you know, I was out on the front lines taking before liability and before padding and before all of that.
Yes.
And yeah, and a lot of it is not just that, but also the fact that I wasn't tuning just my body. It was trying to get the mind in alignment with the spirit. And then so I just basically moved from doing the movements to understanding what I was doing, and then finally opening up spiritually to all the other stuff, all the other things it was taking me, which was, it just ended up going right into the craft, really.
And now that's the thing. You've studied over 30 years, and I do know what eclectic witches are for the most part, what they incorporate in their practices. But you're actually known as the Chakra Witch, which is very different. It's almost, I don't want to say East and West, but it is kind of an amalgam of that's a number of things.
That's the way. Yeah, that is the best way to describe me as East and West, because you know, it was and the funny thing is years later, when I started studying more alternative healing therapies, that became like a big thing with me. I got my license in massage therapy, and most people specialized in Swedish massage, you know, the Western massage. And of course, I went over to the Eastern massage, and then I was doing all the acupressure and the shiatsu and all that, and the traditional Chinese medicine, because it was a natural progression for me. But I do like to bring in, you know, I can do both, of course. And I think it's important, but I don't see as much like with the craft, you know, it's really more this type of structured thing where you're working with certain types of energies. But then I'm over here going, well, you know, when you're casting that particular type of energy, you're really working with say the solar plexus chakra. Okay, like money magic, for example, solar plexus, self-worth. Okay, so if that is not really generating, you know, if that will isn't coming through and everything, you're not putting out enough magnetism to make sure, because if you don't feel that you're worth it, you're not going to really retain or pull it to you, because it's all a sense of it. It's really about you. So, and so on and so forth. So,
and that's why you have to work on the chakra, right? Because if especially if it's going to be that chakra that you need for money, attracting money, you have to have that open.
Exactly. And when I explain it that way, it seems to make a lot of sense to people. And that's why I always like to go with it. Just everything that I explain, I always go right back to the chakras with that, because that was my foundation and it really worked for me. And it seems to make sense to a lot of people because it's a nice bridge to get them to, you know, from A to B. Like if they might not understand necessarily the whole idea about money magic, they'll understand the fact that if you don't know how to receive, how is the universe going to give you anything?
Right.
Bottom line.
Right. Especially if you don't feel worthy.
Exactly.
You've closed yourself off.
Yeah. Like you might be able to make a lot of money, but maybe you can't retain it because you're always putting it away. I only need this much. And the thing is that you'll always only be able to retain this much because that's all you feel that you are worthy of. And which is absolutely not true, because you're the one who's generating all of this energy in the first place. So you're the one creating the money in the first place. So of course you deserve it. And the solar reminds us of that.
And so now how do you, so then if you were instructing individuals, you start with the chakras, or you start to explain all of that to them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I would go through, like a lot of times I'll go through, say, the manifestation process. Everybody wants to know how to manifest. That's what we do. That's how we get through life, trying to manifest something. So that's the easiest way to kind of explain chakras to somebody. And I started with, I saw something on social media somewhere. I think it was on TikTok or something. And I saw this video about chakras and it made me mad because they were saying, you don't want to manifest from the root chakra because it's the lowest of all the chakras and your vibration is too low. Okay. And I said, well, wait a minute. Okay. All of the chakras work together. So when you're trying to manifest something, you're trying to pull it from the realm of spirit, mind, desire to the physical. So it means it has to come from here down. So it can't manifest until it comes out through the root. That's how we were born into this world. So it starts as, you know, maybe connection with the universe, like this need, this desire. Then you start to visualize it. Then you start to talk about, you try to start to communicate what you want. You start to articulate it. You start to build it. Then it gets to the heart. Okay. And then you start to kind of feel that, it starts to come in. You start to feel the connections. Then you get to the solar plexus. You decide, this is what I want. This is my will. Okay. You get emotionally behind it. And then finally it manifests in the physical. So you see, they're all connected. So you're just kind of pulling it down.
Straight through. Yes.
Right. So it comes from here down and out. So the whole idea is to get your magnetism, your vibration level, because the more magnetic you are, the more vibrant you are, the more radiant you are, maybe let's say that. Okay. The more you will attract.
Exactly.
So you're trying to get all of them working together. So the more your circuits are turned on, the easier and the faster you manifest.
Right.
That would be the way I would explain it. So it would be the type of thing where, if you were even if you were trying to do it through spell work, it would be the same type of thing where you're kind of bringing it in, make sure that you have something that you can see that represents that manifestation. And then you're going to speak something, and then, you're going to project, the feel of it, your intention behind it, and then so on and so forth until you get all the way down to the root, and then it's there.
Now, as far as eclectic is concerned, what else do you incorporate in that? Because, there are so many traditions and you're in this community for a long time.
Yes. There's so many different things, but a lot of it, another thing I do like to do is, because, when you're working with the craft and you're working with elements and you're working pentacle and everything, there is 5-element theory in traditional Chinese medicine as well.
Yes, exactly.
You can tie that together as well. So how do the elements live in your body, and how do you activate that, and how do you turn those channels on to make, that energy that much more prevalent in your body, because then you can use that energy to be more effective, to be more powerful, to whatever you wish. So, and also to know yourself better. So it's always that, so we tie that in there. But there's, I always do have a very strong, like we do practice the Wheel of the Year. So there's a strong Celtic vibe in there. But then we also, one of the main things we work with is universal law. So we study the 12 universal laws. So it starts with law of attraction, law of inspired action, and we break all of those. So usually students who study with me will start, the first year we'll go through the basics, like the Wheel of the Year and so on and so forth. But then the second, really get into the year of the mind with universal law, understanding how it all works.
Right, exactly.
Then the third year, making it your own, making all of that information and knowledge your own.
Right. So, and then how do you carry forth with all that knowledge? Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and so, right, with doing all of this, how did you come to open up, not one shop now, of course, we're speaking now, and you've recently opened your second shop, which is larger, but when this airs, it will have been a few months, but you have now 2. And so how did you come to decide to do that? Because that is a big undertaking.
Yeah. Well, the way it started, it was just, honestly, we came across this little shop, and we had been going to many, many shops, and we never quite, we're always attracted to that sort of thing. And I think it's because I'm a mishmash of so many different things that when I go into the store, it's usually just witchcraft or shop, never both, right? So we were always saying, my husband and I, and my husband brings even more to the table because he's a photographer and he's really into art. So he likes
lovely
that in there, the big visuals. So we had been to a lot of different shops, and we never quite saw what we were looking for. We had been married about 6 months, and then we went to a festival in Sugarloaf, and this little shop became available. And we weren't really thinking about it. He just took a picture of the number because you never know. We had just moved. All this stuff had just happened. We just really didn't have that sort of time. But a month later, he's going through his phone, sees the number, calls it, and it was a lot less than we thought it was going to be. So we kind of looked at each other and said, well, we got to at least go look. And it was like this perfect little spot, but we still didn't know what we wanted to do. All we were doing was we were making our own candles and selling them on Etsy. That was it. That's all we had. We had nothing else. And we just decided if it was something that we could do together that would be fun. We both still had full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be something where we'd only be open on weekends. And I think what had happened is right before we opened up, he got an offer for a photography job, which was the exact amount that it would have taken to, buy what we did, and also to do the security and the deposit.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of took that as a message from the universe.
That it was meant to be.
Yeah. And we just did that for a while. And then while we're there, it was a little difficult because I made a lot of the products. We made the candles, we made all this stuff. So we'd have to get home, and then we'd have to truck it on over. And if we forgot to bring it, we lived 40 minutes away.
Wow.
Bit of a pain. So the house across the street became for sale. And I just started looking at like, hey, honey, this is a lot easier, and it took me a while to talk them into it. But we bought the house, and we had the shop on the bottom and the house on the top. Stayed like that. And that was like the perfect arrangement for a while. Got to the point where I was able to leave my job and invest in that full time. He was still working. And then the shutdown, the pandemic hit.
Yes.
And that's when everything really exploded for us, believe it or not, because we just started going online, just helping, just kind of putting out free stuff about like free content of how to, like to keep yourself strong, how to keep yourself healthy, and just trying to explaining what it is we do, how to do certain things, how to do this, how to do that. And then it just turned into this huge following. So by the time we opened up, we could not fit everything into the one store. So we started renting the shop next door for production, because all these candle stuff we were shipping, we actually shipped candles out to China, which I find hilarious because most people from China
bring things here. Yes.
Yeah, they love our candles over there. So, we were renting this like little shop next door to our house
to do the work, right? To do the work,
make stuff to sell in the shop, right? Then a spot became available in Warwick, which my husband wanted to try because there's a lot more walk-in traffic, and it was just a way to expand our reach. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. So it wasn't necessarily the type of thing where we're like, we decided to do 2 shops. It was really more that it was necessary.
Yes.
We needed to accommodate everybody who was coming.
I can't believe you were making all the things yourself. That's a lot of work.
Everything. So that's why this shop now that we're in is about 8,000 square feet. It's huge.
It's a beautiful shop. It just opened. It just opened.
Yeah. It just opened last week, actually.
Yes. Right. Was the opening.
Yeah. I'm on the 2nd floor right now where the art gallery is and everything.
Right.
Downstairs, we have it split in half. So half of it goes all the way back to the shop, the psychic tents, everything like that. But the other side is my husband's photography studio is in the back, but the front end is all the factory. So you can actually come in and watch the candles.
Oh, wow. That's lovely.
Everything. So you can see. And then sometimes we do classes where we teach you how to do it. And we do a class every month. So it's all about, showing them how to put the intention in there and why they work the way they do and how to activate them, and just kind of educating people, because that was something that I never really had. I really never got that. I found out about what I was doing after the fact. And it was always, I wish somebody had told me that years sooner.
Right.
So I ended up trying to become that person for other people. That's all.
So now the new shop is in Warwick.
Warwick, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But you still have Sugarloaf. Right. It's on the main, it's in the main street. It's on the main street in Warwick.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you still have the Sugarloaf shop. And how much of a distance are the two? I know they're relatively near each other.
Oh, yeah, they're not far. They're only about 7 minutes away from each other. But for some reason, it's just they're like completely different worlds. And Sugarloaf is kind of like this little live-work village. So, I'm never going to get rid of Sugarloaf. It's my home.
Right. Of course.
And it's, it's tiny and everything, but there are a lot of people like it. There's that following there that develop. A lot of people who will come to Sugarloaf who won't necessarily go to Warwick. And there's a lot of people in Warwick, whenever I tell them, well, we have Sugarloaf too, they're like, I never go out there. I really think it's more about the sensibility. Sugarloaf, when people come in, they're looking for something very specific. Okay. they already know, they've already been practicing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They have specific questions. But when they come into Warwick, I feel like that's more of an outreach post where
Yes.
you don't necessarily get exposed to this sort of thing, come in and they
Mm-hmm.
don't know why they're coming in. They're not sure what it is they want to ask,
Mm-hmm.
but they feel drawn to it and they need to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Warwick is. And that's why I think it's good that we have all of that, like showing you how we make it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you have to worry about. This isn't anything to fear. This is stuff that is inside of you. And we just access it a little bit more clearly on your terms.
And it's educational because they're actually watching it as it's happening.
Yeah.
And I would think that it would be fascinating for somebody who's maybe searching, questioning, heard possibly something, but doesn't know. And yet there it is all in front of them.
Right in front of them.
It's a perfect way to see it firsthand for possibly the first time.
And then right up front, I have something called a Magick bar. And they can come up if they want to. They can come right up and order something custom. And they can even help make it. So there's all these different ways in which we're just kind of showing them what it is that we do and why it works. That's the whole idea. And
so how are you opening? How are you opening 7 days? Like, because again, it is retail and it's retail space. And are you open 7 days a week?
Yep. Yeah, we have to Warwick. It's that busy. Sugarloaf, it's weekends because that's more of a specific.
And that's also a kind of a cute little quaint village that people hear about and and they hear about it and they go on a weekend to possibly stay and look right.
And plus, it's not a risk for me to not open during the week because it is my house. I'm paying the mortgage anyway, so I don't really need to open the doors until it's weekends. But at one point we were open more in Sugarloaf. It's just that now that Warwick is so big and I do make everything in Warwick. That's why I spend most of my time over in Warwick. But of course, Sugarloaf is always going to be my home.
Right, exactly. And how do you juggle all of that? Because that's a lot of work. And you you still sell online. You're still very much online.
We're really lucky that we have a very good community because with the Year in a Day program, a lot of the students like to come in and help volunteer. The Magick Bar is always popular. The Magic Factory, everybody wants to come and help out with that. But there is,
I'll be honest, I would be there if it was closer.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that close because I had a friend that lived out between Sugarloaf and Warwick, and it's a lot of miles away. Because if it was closer, I'd be there often too.
Yeah. And it's just, it's fun. I mean, there's people, it's the funniest thing because there are people I'm noticing they're starting to come in and they just come and they sit at the bar and they just watch. And other people will come up and do custom orders, and the other people just sit there and watch, almost like it's like the movies or something.
Right, it's entertainment. It's entertainment.
Yeah, but it
is entertainment. Right. It's educational and it's entertainment for them, and they're amongst people that are of a like mind, and I think that's so important.
Yeah, and that's comforting, and you got to think about it. How many places are there to go where you have a community of like-minded people? I mean, as an adult, it's hard to make new friends.
That's true.
There's really, where do you go? You go to a bar, you're only going to see that person occasionally. The only people you're going to see on a regular basis are the people you work with.
Right.
And you may not necessarily want to hang out with those people.
No, right. You can be you can be cordial with them, you can respect them, but they're not necessarily your people for outside of work. True.
So where are you going to meet people? So at least this is somewhere where you can come regularly, and we have events, classes, several of them every month, both online and in person. So you get to build a community, and that's really one of the main, and that's why we call it Light Club, because you're kind of getting a community as well. And I think that's so important because when people practice, I mean, the main thing that's out there is solitary practitioner. You can also work with a community. You can get the best of both worlds.
And now, so what are your hours there? Well, actually in both shops. Let's hear that.
So it's 11 to 6. Okay. And in every shop. So it would be Saturdays and Sundays in Sugarloaf, 11 to 6. And then every day in Warwick from 11 to 6.
11 to
and
6.
On Saturdays, we'll stay a little later. Sometimes we're there until 7. But it's because we do a lot of classes. We do, so there's always something going on. There's always at least 2 events per week. And that's why we have this whole second floor here. So even though the bottom floor is for the shop and all of the other, then up here we have a whole classroom and event space. And we even have a room, a healing suite where we have massage therapy, Reiki, skincare, natural skin pills and everything. So, there's a lot going on here. Yeah.
No, and I know you're involved in the community. I know that you're involved in, I think recently there were parades that were going on.
Yeah, we did. Well, it's kind of something we started in Sugarloaf. And what happened in Sugarloaf, it's an interesting little town. I mean, it's kind of like there's a bunch of shops, but not too many of them they kind of keep to themselves. There's a few of them that kind of band together and will throw like a festival every like 6 months. So there's spring festival, there's fall festival. So what happened was at the fall festival, we were trying to come up with ways to attract people. And I said, and one day I was like, hey, what about a witch parade? Because we had a friend who had a horse and everything. Yeah, well, they'll dress up headless horsemen. We'll come out and surround them as witches and we'll go street, right? So we did that the first year and it got really popular. So we started experimenting. So then we started inviting other people. You want to come and be in the witch parade, show up at the shop at this time, you be in the witch parade. And then this past one, somebody came in and volunteered an entire float. So we had the whole thing. I mean, it was pretty amazing. We had a drum line coming in. I mean, this turned into a full-on Halloween parade. And it was funny because it was right around like the beginning of October and everything. And it just, people kept coming to me, are you going to do it again on Halloween? Are you going to do it again on Halloween? And I just, there's only so much I can do. There's only so many
hours in the day. Right. But it is something that people are looking for. Right. And not too many places offer it. And, if they can get to it, that's where they want to go.
Oh yeah, we had a ball the Saturday right before Halloween, and the amount of people that came to that I didn't know, and it was interesting because we said formal Halloween ball, not costume, right?
Right.
People really delivered. I mean, people came. There were people driving up from Long Island to go to this thing, and they were just coming in with big plumes, and I mean, really going all out. So we had a very hard time because we didn't do a costume contest because if we weren't, it's not costumes. So we did a best dressed award and we had to give it out to like 5 different people. They were that good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. And
incredible. Where did you hold that event?
We held that at the Sugarloaf Performing Arts Center.
No. Oh, nice.
It was right there. And they had this big pavilion and it was all lit up and it was absolutely incredible. They had a little festival that day. And then that evening it went right into the ball.
And that was the first time you did it, was this past year?
The ball, we do it every year, but the past year was the first one where we opened it back up to the public. Right. Because for a while there, we were just doing it for the students, and that was going to be the type where it was kind of like their end of their year graduation party. Then we just decided, we were like, you know what? A lot of people are looking for something like this, and everybody's bringing their families anyway. Let's open it up to the public. So we got that bigger space. And then it just turned into that. And that's around the time we start saying, we really need a bigger spot. We really need a bigger spot. And we had a smaller spot in Warwick. And then just after putting it out there in our minds, I think maybe a month later, the space I'm sitting in right now became available.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And it was basically the answer to every intention, every prayer, every spell that we ever put out.
I would imagine so, because I can see that it would get very big because there aren't that many places to go for people. And I know that, for example, they have a mermaid parade.
I went to that one.
Have
huge.
It's tremendous.
In Coney Island. Absolutely.
Yes. Tremendous.
Because, I mean, that little parade that we're doing in Sugarloaf got really big.
Yes.
Like Warwick, it would be gigantic. And nobody talking to me, I had somebody mention it, and they said that they always do a Halloween parade every year.
Right.
Now they're looking to have us maybe next year kind of start off the parade like at Marshall's, the
I would think it would be wonderful, because I'm just thinking of how tremendous Sleepy Hollow has gotten over the last few years. It's always been a place that people go, but I think after the pandemic, it's gotten tremendous.
Exactly, because people are realizing that there's just more to life, and you really about connection, because we were forced to not connect.
Exactly.
And again, we realize how many levels of connection there are. It's not just physical connection, it's also mental connection, it's also connection. And where can you go to get all of that?
That's right.
And hopefully we can help with that.
Yes.
That's all.
And I know there's one, where is it? Pine Bush has the UFO one.
Museum.
But they have a parade too. They actually have a parade out there that's absolutely tremendous. Yeah, and that's been happening for years, and people have gone because, as you said, they're looking to connect with others that are of a like mind. And it is on connection on many levels, as you said.
You know, and ironically, I went to high school in Pine Bush.
So did you?
When they start with that UFO museum, I mean, there was a lot of us going, well, it's about time. Because it's an
right. From what I understand, they say that. They say that there's a lot of sightings there.
Yes. And I think at one point they were saying that was one of the UFO capital of the East Coast.
Yes.
And it would make sense. I mean, you know, some of the things just I've encountered there, and I remember just weird little things, like just being on the bus, and I would always know, like, even if I was just like zoned out or even asleep, every time across the line, you would feel it. You would feel this weird little shift. And that was always, you know, all of these experiences helped kind of shape and create who I became.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. And I know for many people, because that was something that was important to them, because they were feeling all of that. And so that's why that parade actually started as sort of an acknowledgement of what was going on there.
Exactly. Yes, because you know, all those years, I remember like going to school there and everything. Oh, no, that's all just talk. Oh yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not. Now they're admitting everything. So, you know, and again, you know, a community that's so important. I mean, I'm starting to see things banding together. You've got that group. I'm seeing more of an expansion of paranormal groups.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And they're actually coming, you know, we're going to be hosting a few paranormal groups here, because this is an old building on the historic register, and there's a lot of activity in here. So,
oh, wow.
Investigations in here as well. So, you know, just kind of opening it up and just allowing lots of different ideas to come in, and just allow everybody to find what works for them.
Yeah. And there are a lot of schools of thought there. I noticed in talking to people, there are those that want to prove scientifically, so they use more equipment. And there are others that go the other way. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm actually letting one from each group come in at the same time.
Oh, wow.
What kind of results they get. You know, it's like, you know, and I'm just going to put them in different areas and everything. They take one floor at a time, and then they switch, and then they're going to just see the results and see what happens.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Right? Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. Now, will they be filming that, the people who come in?
I believe so. Yeah.
That they actually, because there's so many groups around, and then some of them do in fact film.
Yeah. And not only that, we do have we have a YouTube channel as well. So I think we're going to
you do?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll have to let me know what it is. I would definitely, well, of course I want to put all the information in the comments, because I'm sure people are going to ask, but I would love to also watch it.
Yeah, LightClub Curiosity Shoppe. And we have a lot of just little free programs on there. We call it Show and Spell. And basically show you how everything works. We show you how we do this. A lot of them explain like different aspects of what we do, how we make things, also explaining all of the wheel of the year, you know, going through each of the sabbats, everything. And we pretty much put out something new every couple of weeks.
Oh, wonderful. And how do you film? You film at the shop. How does that go? Because that must be, you know, do you have like days that you film, or do you film when it's closed? Because that might be difficult.
We'll have days that we film. Sometimes I have a little team, and we go on location and everything. And we might film outside of the shop, depending on what the topic is. But if it's something that's inside the shop, what we'll do is we'll either pick a day that is not as busy, or we'll just we'll wait until after the shop is closed, and then So that's usually the way it goes. Or we might film some of it when the shop is open, and that's the B-roll, and then back, and then when after everybody leaves and we close down, then we do the rest.
So now with all this that you do, you're working all the time. Do you ever have any time to rest?
Not really. I try. Right now I have one day where I do not come in. And I found that's very important, because if I don't do that, I used to think like, oh, I have to be there and I have to do everything. But then at one point you get blocked, you run out of ideas, you just get fried. So that time apart is where all the inspiration comes back in. So you have to have that. So right now it's Tuesdays are my day where I never plan anything on a Tuesday. And eventually I'm going to add a second day in there. So I'm thinking like it might be a Tuesday, Thursday type of thing, where those are the days where I just give myself a little bit of a break. But right now it's only the one day, but that's better than nothing.
Yes. I mean, I give you credit because I can't imagine, I say I'm old, and if I think back, oh my God, that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And retail is 365 days a year, more or less. I mean, even if you're giving yourself off a little bit for a holiday, but it really is constant, and it's 24 hours a day, because you're always doing business of one sort or another.
Oh, back when I had the shop and I was still working my full-time job. So that was really hard, because then I would leave my full-time job, and then I would come home, and then I would do a class at night. And then, when the job was done, then I would run over to the shop and I would put it on weekends. So every year I would look forward to Christmas, because it was the one day where I didn't work at all. It was the only day a year where I didn't work for about
where you had the time. Yes.
Yeah, for about 4 years I did that. And then when I finally went to doing this full time, I decided there had to be one day. And I looked over the years, it just seems to be Tuesday seems to be the slow day. So, which is good, because, it's Tuesday. It's, like that.
Right.
It's Dave, the kind of the warrior or something like that. So that's, I just kind of, just make sure that my boundaries are very strong on that day. And that's that.
So, and where do you go from here with all that you're already doing and all that you're providing to the communities? Because you are providing to, you're providing it to the world, but you're really physically providing to two communities now.
Right. I guess the main thing is to just keep doing more of this, where I can kind of reach a way that I wouldn't be able to do physically. Just kind of focusing on that, because now that my physical expansion has gotten so big, I have to make sure that I'm balanced and make sure that the expansion mentally, spiritually as well. And spiritual expansion is always myself. Do I keep doing my thing to remain authentic? I have to continue to learn. I have to continue to be a student myself. But the mental one would be online outreach, going to other places, trying to put it out there as much as I can, because let's be honest, all of us have a responsibility to put out as much positive energy as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with everything happening on the planet. We know, I say that all the time. We know that the hate, the fear, the bias, the prejudice, that definitely comes through. Those who do that and say that, they make sure that their message is heard. So why should we not have a message of light, right, and hope for humanity?
I appreciate what you do so much, because
thank you.
Because you reach out to a lot of different people and a lot of different modalities, and you're showing people stuff that they may not necessarily know is out there. And that's why, please keep doing what you're doing. You're just
thank you.
A light that's out there. And I just so appreciated that you found me, because I figured if somebody like you found me, I must be doing something right.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. I mean, we knew each other through groups on Facebook, and, being in the same state, and knowing a lot of the same people, the same people of a like mind. But it's so important. And yes, absolutely, because there are people that might be in areas that they feel like they're all alone, and they feel that maybe no one understands them, or that they're never going to find their tribe, their connection. And I want to make sure that they realize that it is out there, that you don't have to follow a path of hatred and bias and harm and hurt, that you can in fact find light and friendship, and those that think the same way you do, and those that will help you to actually grow spiritually, emotionally, physically, you know, everything, because sometimes when they're all alone, they don't know where to turn. So that's why it's so important to have people like you to realize that, oh, look, I can watch her on YouTube. I can contact her. I can see what's going on. And that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I cannot tell you the amount of people who do reach out to me on a regular basis. And something that I said, you know, you finally explained it in a way that I could understand. And that that means the world to me, because there was a time when I didn't have that person to explain it to me, or they explained it in a way that it took me 5 years to figure it out. So, you know, and that's, I think that everything is starting to speed up. And as everything speeds up, we really need to make sure that we're on point and we're doing everything that we can to make sure that it speeds up in a positive direction.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But I want to thank you again for coming on today. It was wonderful. I know you're so busy. And so to take the time to speak to the audience, it's been fabulous.
It's always a pleasure. And again, thank you for having me. And for anybody who's watching, again, keep doing what you're doing. It's important and it matters.
Oh, thank you. And you as well. You as well. And remember, everybody, you can reach out to either one of us, and I will make sure that I put all of Melissa's information down. And definitely, if you're in the area, you have to see the shops. You have to go out there. I myself am going to come out. I'm waiting for the weather to be a little nicer, since we've had some bad weather and some cold weather, but I definitely want to come out. This time I said to my husband, there's no excuses. It's not that far. So we're going to take a drive.
Definitely worth the drive, because there's so much to do just in this building.
Yes.
That, yeah, you've just gotta, I mean, you can see it in the pictures.
Yes.
But you don't really get it until you
walk in. Yes, I know exactly. That's why I said we have to see it for ourselves. Again, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you on again, or maybe even shoot a scene at the shop.
That would be spectacular.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Blessed be.